Okay, everyone. Tonight I have 5 true stories from night shift workers across the country. These are people who were just trying to do their jobs when they encountered something that changed them forever. Night shifts are isolating. You're awake when everyone else is asleep. The world feels different, quieter, darker, and sometimes something else is awake with you. These 5 stories will make you think twice about working alone at night. Let's begin. Story 1. The Diner Regular. This first story comes from a waitress named Amy, who worked the graveyard shift at a small diner in Kansas. The diner was one of those classic 24-hour places. Vinyl booths, checkered floors, a jukebox in the corner that hadn't worked in years. Amy had been working there for about 6 months, and she'd gotten used to the late-night crowd. Truckers, insomniacs, the occasional drunk stumbling in for coffee. But there was one customer who made her deeply uncomfortable. He started coming in around 3 a.m., always sitting in the same booth by the window. He was probably in his 60s, balding with thick glasses and a blank expression. He'd order the same thing every time, black coffee and a slice of apple pie. And he would stare at Amy the entire time. Not in a creepy, obvious way, just constant, unblinking, like he was studying her. Amy tried to ignore it. She'd smile politely, refill his coffee, and go about her work. But one night, things escalated. It was around 3:30 a.m. The diner was empty except for the old man in his usual booth. Amy brought him his pie and coffee. "Here you go, sir." The man didn't acknowledge her. He just kept staring. Amy turned to walk away, but then he spoke. "You're going to die here." Amy froze. "Excuse me?" The man's face didn't change. No emotion, no inflection. "You're going to die here, in this diner, soon." Amy's heart was pounding. "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about, but 3 weeks, maybe less." The man interrupted. Amy backed away, her hands shaking. I think you need to leave." The man stood up slowly, leaving a $20 bill on the table. He walked to the door, then paused and looked back at her. "I'm sorry. I wish I could stop it." And then he left. Amy immediately called her manager and told him what happened. The manager reviewed the security footage, but the camera angle didn't capture the man's face clearly. Amy refused to work the night shift for the next 2 weeks. But 3 weeks later, almost to the day, something happened. Amy wasn't at the diner that night. She'd switched to day shifts, but one of the other night shift waitresses, a woman named Kelly, was working. Around 3 a.m., a man came into the diner and attempted to rob it at gunpoint. Kelly tried to comply, but the man panicked and fired. Kelly died instantly. Amy heard about it the next morning, and she couldn't stop thinking about the old man's words. "You're going to die here." If Amy had been working that night, it would have been her. The old man never came back. Amy quit a week later, and she still wonders, did that man somehow know, or was it just a horrible coincidence?
Story 2. The Warehouse Voices. This story comes from a forklift operator named Travis, who worked the night shift at a massive distribution warehouse in Pennsylvania. The warehouse was enormous, over 200,000 square feet, with rows upon rows of towering shelves stacked with inventory. Travis usually worked alone, moving pallets and organizing stock. It was lonely work, but Travis didn't mind. He'd listen to music, podcasts, anything to pass the time. But one night, his headphones died. He was deep in the back section of the warehouse, surrounded by shelves that stretched up into the darkness, when he heard it. Voices. Faint. Distant. But unmistakably voices. Travis stopped his forklift and turned off the engine. The voices continued. They were coming from somewhere in the aisles. Travis grabbed his flashlight and climbed off the forklift. "Hello?" he called out. The voices stopped. Travis walked slowly down the aisle, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. "Is someone there?" Silence. He turned to head back to his forklift, and that's when he heard it. His own voice. "Is someone there?" Travis spun around, his heart racing. The voice had come from deeper in the warehouse. It sounded exactly like him. "Hello?" His own voice called out from the darkness. Travis's blood ran cold. "Who's there?" he shouted. And then multiple voices responded, all of them his voice. "Who's there? Who's there? Who's there?" Overlapping, echoing, coming from every direction. Travis ran. He didn't stop running until he was out of the warehouse, gasping for air in the parking lot. He called his supervisor and told him he was leaving. The next day, he went back to collect his things. His supervisor pulled him aside. "Travis, I need to tell you something." Apparently, back in the 1990s, a worker had died in that warehouse. He'd been crushed by a falling pallet while working alone on the night shift. No one found him until the next morning. His name was Travis. Travis, the current Travis, quit immediately. He never went back. And he never found out why the warehouse was echoing his voice. But sometimes, late at night, he still hears it, calling his name.
Story 3. The Motel Guest. This story comes from a night clerk named Jordan, who worked at a small roadside motel in Texas. The motel was old, run-down, and mostly empty. It catered to long-haul truckers and travelers passing through. Jordan's job was to check in guests, answer phones, and keep an eye on things overnight. One night, around 2 a.m., a man checked in. He was in his 40s, wearing a dusty suit that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in weeks. His hair was greasy, his face unshaven, but it was his eyes that bothered Jordan. They were wide, frantic, like he was terrified of something. "I need a room," the man said, his voice shaking. "Sure. How many nights?" "Just one. Maybe two. I don't know." Jordan handed him a key to room 7. The man took it and hurried outside without another word. About an hour later, Jordan heard a loud banging sound coming from room 7. He walked outside and stood in front of the door. "Sir? Is everything okay?" The banging stopped. "Sir?" A voice came from inside, weak, strained. "Don't let her in." Jordan frowned. "Let who in?" "The woman. If she comes, don't let her in." Jordan's stomach twisted. "Sir, there's no one here, but—" "She's coming. I can hear her." Jordan backed away from the door, his heart pounding. He went back to the front desk and kept an eye on the security monitor. At 3:30 a.m., a figure appeared on the screen. A woman standing in the parking lot facing room 7.
She was wearing a long white dress. Her hair hung down over her face. She didn't move. Jordan's hands were shaking. He watched as the woman slowly walked towards room 7. She stopped in front of the door and knocked 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Jordan grabbed his phone, ready to call the police. But then, the door to room 7 opened. The man stepped out. Jordan watched on the monitor as the man and the woman stood facing each other. Neither of them moved. And then, the woman reached out and took the man's hand. They walked together toward the edge of the parking lot. And then, they disappeared, just vanished into the darkness. Jordan ran outside. Room 7 was empty. The door was still open, swinging slightly in the breeze. Inside, the bed was untouched. No luggage, no belongings. It was like the man had never been there. But on the floor, written in dust, were 3 words. She found me. Jordan called the police. They searched the area but found nothing. No man, no woman, no trace of either of them. Jordan quit 2 days later, and he still wonders, who was that woman? And where did they go?
Story 4. The Subway Maintenance Worker. This story comes from a maintenance worker named Carl, who worked the night shift for the city's subway system in New York. Carl's job was to inspect tracks, repair equipment, and make sure the tunnels were safe. He'd been doing it for over 10 years, and he'd seen plenty of strange things. Rats the size of cats, homeless people living in the tunnels, graffiti in places no one should be able to reach. But one night, he saw something that made him question everything. Carl was inspecting a section of tunnel on the abandoned lower level, tracks that hadn't been used in decades. The air was damp and cold, and the only light came from his headlamp. He was checking a support beam when he heard footsteps. Carl stopped and listened. The footsteps were coming closer. "Hello?" Carl called out. "This area's off limits." The footsteps stopped. Carl shone his light down the tunnel, and he saw someone standing there. A man in an old-fashioned uniform, like something a subway conductor would have worn in the 1940s. "Hey, you're not supposed to be down here!" The man didn't respond. He just stood there, perfectly still. Carl started walking toward him. "Sir, I need you to leave. This area is dangerous." As Carl got closer, he realized something was wrong. His face was pale, too pale, and his uniform, it was covered in dirt and grime, like he'd been down there for years. Carl stopped about 10 feet away. "Who are you?" The man finally moved. He raised one arm and pointed down the tunnel, deeper into the darkness. "Don't go down there," he said, his voice hollow and distant. Carl's heart was pounding. "Why not?" "They're still down there, waiting." "Who's down there?" The man's face twisted into an expression of pure terror. "The ones who never left." And then he vanished. Just gone. Carl stood there, frozen, his mind racing. He turned and ran back the way he came, not stopping until he reached the surface. He reported what he saw, but his supervisor dismissed it as exhaustion or stress. But Carl knows what he saw, and he never went back to that section of tunnel again, because he knows
There are people down there. People who never left. And they're still waiting.
Story 5. The Security Guard's Last Round. This final story comes from a security guard named Marcus, who worked at an abandoned office building in Detroit. The building had been empty for years, but the property owner hired Marcus to patrol it overnight to prevent vandalism and squatters. It was an easy job. The building was massive, 12 floors of empty offices, cubicles, and conference rooms. Marcus would walk each floor once per shift, make sure all the doors were locked, and that was it. But one night, on his final round, something was different. Marcus was on the 10th floor when he noticed a light on in one of the offices. That was strange. The power had been shut off months ago. Marcus walked toward the office, his flashlight in hand. The door was slightly open. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was completely empty. No furniture, no equipment, just bare walls and a dusty floor. But in the center of the room, there was a chair, and someone was sitting in it. Marcus's heart stopped. It was a man, facing away from him, sitting perfectly still. "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." The man didn't move. Marcus walked closer, his hand on his radio. "Sir, I need you to leave, now." Still nothing. Marcus reached out and tapped the man on the shoulder. The man's head slowly turned, and Marcus screamed. The man had no face, just smooth, blank skin where his eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Marcus stumbled backward and ran. He didn't stop running until he was outside, gasping for air. He called the police, but when they searched the building, they found nothing. No man, no chair, no light. Marcus refused to go back inside. He quit that night. But a week later, he got a call from the property owner. "Marcus, I need to show you something." Reluctantly, Marcus went back to the building. The property owner took him to the 10th floor, to the same office. On the wall, written in dust, was a message. "You saw me. Now I see you." Marcus moved out of state the next month, and to this day, he refuses to work as a security guard because he knows the faceless man